and welcome. So today we are on to the second of our embroidery patterns. If you haven't already, you can grab a copy of the sampler patterns from the link below. There's 3 in total and 5 stitches on each. Today we're going to be working on the cross stitch, and I'm going to talk you through how I do this in embroidery, and I will also talk you through how to do this on Aida fabric. Don't forget, if you're enjoying these videos, please hit that thumbs up and give this a like and subscribe. Okay, so cross stitch is typically worked on this Aida fabric, which has got a grid design to it, which makes it a bit easier to put your crosses and keep them all the same size. But you can use them in embroidery. You might find it easier to draw yourself a bit of a grid, or put the crosses, draw your crosses onto the pattern to follow, just to keep them all about the same sort of size. The main thing that you need to remember when doing cross stitch is keep your stitches going in the same direction. So if you start, for example, with this line going underneath and this one going on top, you want to keep them all going in that direction, otherwise it's going to look a bit messy. The ideal strand count for cross stitch is 2 or 3 strands. I have 3 strands on my needle. Okay, so to do the cross stitch on embroidery, I've got a knot at the end. I'm going to start from the bottom end of my cross, pull my thread through until the knot hits the back of the fabric, and then I'm just going to take this across in a diagonal motion to the other side and pull that down just so it covers that top line. And then I'm going to come over to the second side of the cross, pull my fabric through, and then up and over the top. And that's how simple cross stitch is. And then I'm just going to continue working my way along this line, keeping my bottom stitch the one that's going in this direction and my top stitch going in this direction. If you need to join any thread, you just turn over, fasten off your stitches like we have done. Oops. Fasten off your stitches like we have done in the past by creating a little loop knot. Trim that off. And then you just put your new thread on your needle with a knot at the end again, and you literally just restart like you did before. So this is quite a simple stitch. When you run out of thread midway through, it's quite easy to add it in. And there you go. And then when we get to the end, we just finish off as we did before. And that's how we do our cross stitch in embroidery. Okay, so now I'll show you on the Aida how I do it. Now, I always start from the top when I'm working on cross stitch fabric, pull my needle halfway or almost through, and then just leave a bit hanging and move further over. And then you just come up in one of the holes, pull that, be careful not to pull it too tight because you pull your thread right the way through. And then you just go up in a diagonal motion to the hole opposite, pull that down, and then just come down to the hole beneath that and bring it up and over to the hole diagonally opposite from that and create a little cross. And you just work your way along as before in the same direction, just doing your little crosses. But it's slightly easier on this fabric because your holes are already perforated for you, so you know exactly where you've got to go and they all end up the same size. The hardest part is remembering which direction that you're stitching in so that you keep them all neat and going in the same direction. And then when you finish those, turn over, just put it through one of your stitches, pull it through, and again I would just do a loop knot like that, trim it off to keep it neat, and then just use your needle to pull that bit through that was before, but because you've stitched over it, it's all nice and secure. And there are your little stitches, your little cross stitches on your Aida. So there we have it. We've got our cross stitch for the embroidery and cross stitch on the typical Aida fabric. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you can give this a thumbs up and hit that like and subscribe. And stay tuned for next week. We're going to be doing blanket stitch. Thank you.